And here's the thing. Has protest lost its purpose? And what do these people want? 0344 499 1000. So this Sunday, let me just talk you through this. This Sunday, there were plans for a 1 million people march through London. The organisation behind it doesn't actually mention Black Lives Matter, but it's clearly the same thing with the same kind of aims. They're calling it the inaugural march. The 1 million people march. They even have the audacity to use images of Martin Luther King on their website. That man, Martin Luther King, would turn in his grave if he saw what has happened to the tricky art of protesting. Scotland Yard faces a High Court challenge from one of its own advisors on race after its decision to deny support to the Black Lives Matter march on Sunday. So we're going to watch that bit with interest. Organisers of the 1 million people march have been told the event is illegal because of COVID-19 restrictions. They've instructed solicitors to seek a judicial review of the decision, claiming that an exemption should apply to them. Elsewhere, and this is where it gets really interesting, the police have also placed thousands of officers on standby after Extinction Rebellion announced plans for a long weekend of disobedience in support of Black Lives Matter. Hang on. A march in support of a march, a protest in support of a protest. The 1 million people march, I assume named after the 1 million man march protests in the States back in the mid-90s, 95, something like that. That one was organised by the race baiter and bedwetter Louis Farrakhan, but that protest was seen as sexist, and then 2 years later they had to organise the 1 million woman march. I'm not making this up. So Extinction Rebellion now re-enter the ring. They've been quiet for a good few months. Their timing is not good. Not only are they planning a weekend of civil disobedience, as I mentioned, they're also planning their main protest on Tuesday. This is to coincide with Parliament returning. They want to disrupt Westminster until MPs meet their demands. What in the name of David Bellamy's pants do they mean? A group of ultra-left-wing Trotskyites want the government to meet their demands. We want you to meet our... This has the intellectual clout of high school kids staging a sit-in in the school hall against girls having to wear skirts. That's the kind of impact we're talking here. Mark my words, most of the people at the Extinction Rebellion protest will also be at the Black Lives Matter protest. You will also find them at an anti-capitalist protest. You'll also find them at the anti-Brexit protest, and anything with the word protest attached to it. They would protest at the opening of a nunnery if they thought there were oppression points in it. Has protest completely lost its purpose? And what do these people want? 0344 499 1000. It kind of used to mean something. If you consider... think of the most famous of protests. I'll go back to Martin Luther King marching for racial equality. It meant something. It was obvious. I'm pretty sure even the world's worst racist on a quiet night sitting in his backyard smoking a pipe probably thought, I think these guys are onto something here. This was just about basic equality. Pankhurst and co. all marching for basic rights of suffrage. It meant something. These protests mean little other than showcasing your synthetic anger and fake indignation in order to make yourself feel like a nicer person. You then take some selfies along the way. You get extra house points, by the way, if you get arrested. Invariably, these are all framed under the kind of, if you think about what's going on here, it's anti-establishment. That's what's happening. They're anti-government, particularly anti-Tory. Interestingly, they're the same people. And I find this fascinating. How do they even let this slide? The same people who've been squealing like little piglets, claiming the government is irresponsible, sending kids back to school. It's a COVID hotspot in the classroom. Save our teachers and our children before they die. They'll die in close proximity. But now it's perfectly acceptable to gather shoulder to shoulder in their thousands. Such is the twisted nature of their logic. Has protest lost its purpose? And specifically, what do you think is behind, what the motivation, what is behind all of this? Interestingly, some of the Extinction Rebellion lot, Roger Hallam, the founder of XR, and 4 other climate activists were arrested on Monday. Did you know that? They were charged yesterday with conspiring to commit public nuisance and criminal damage and remanded in custody by Highbury and Islington magistrates. A spokesman for them said they were on indefinite hunger strike. So they're now having another protest, having been arrested for having a protest in support of a protest. What is wrong with these people? 0344 499 1000. Is there a day? Can they get out of bed without a sense of iniquity? Can they get through an entire day without making a placard? Is it possible to go 24 hours without a protest? Years ago, when people protest, and I've made this point before, remember which was a 1 million person march against the Iraq war. Now, just park whether or not you agree with the protest. This is the biggest single protest, I think I'm right in saying, we've ever had in the UK. So the Stop the War Coalition, that's what they were called, Stop the War. And I'm sure they had other sort of anti-X, Y and Z about them. But broadly speaking, they didn't like what Blair was doing. They didn't take the decision to go to war lightly. And so they decided to have a protest. And they somehow got 1 million people to, that's 3.5 miles of human being, think about that, without the aid of social media. I mean, just no Facebook, no Twitter, just leaflets, ads, I'm sure, in local newspapers, organisations throwing it out there. Man alive, disagree with the cause, but that is a protest. That is the mother of all protests. That's how you do a protest, philosophically driven by your cause. And you absolutely, with the coach loads coming in from all over the place now, you wouldn't get people protest with a flipping hashtag, for goodness sake. Don't have to get off the sofa. Yeah, you do actually. Yes, you do. In a coach, what, from Grimsby to London? Man alive. And people will still do it, of course. But if you think of what protest once was, today, you can protest about anything and get a mobilised crowd on College Green in about 48 hours. I was reminded of this when I was working in central London, and I was on the train going into work, and there was a load of people who were clearly going to a protest, about half a dozen, a load of it, about half a dozen guys going to a protest. And what they, I think one had a T-shirt on saying Tony Blair should die or something like that. Another one had a leaflet talking about, being pro-Corbyn. It was a sort of remember when the pro-Corbyn lot were saying, unless you were a Corbyn socialist, any other kind of socialist essentially was a Tory, which is why they lost so spectacularly the election. And it was something like that. So they were going in on the day that there was an anti-Brexit protest, but they weren't there for the anti-Brexit protest. And when I got to work, I heard a chanting crowd coming across Leicester Square. And I thought, oh, is this the anti-Brexit protest? Or is this the pro-Corbyn protest? Which protest is it? And it was neither. It was a Black Lives Matter protest. It's about 7 years ago. It was a Black Lives Matter protest. No, it had been about 4 years ago, right? So 2016. And I thought, Black Lives, so you had a load of kids, there was about 20 of them, average age 20, carrying sort of a badly photocopied picture of some guy from Brooklyn or something, having a protest against the Baton Rouge police force. It just looked insane. Did they really know what they were protesting for? 0344 499 1000. I sense that protest once meant something. Today, I sense that protest is more of an anti-establishment position, regardless of the cause. It's about being angry. It's about a perpetual argument that never ends. And as Mike Graham was saying just before the news, if you consider when he asked the guy from Black Lives Matter, what happens when this is sorted? Oh, Extinction Rebellion, wasn't it, I think? One of the two, there's so many. What happens when you've got everything you want? Well, I don't know. We'll just carry on protesting. There's no end to this, really. There's never going to be a point when you couldn't criticise some aspect of government policy. The fact that you then organise a protest, and we've had this when we've talked about the trans issue quite a lot, it seems, the loudest voices do resonate. I was reading a thing today about diversity training at the BBC. They're really going for it in a big, big way, because they're talking about microaggressions. They said until we can get everybody represented through drama at the BBC, something that's completely unachievable. And if you start writing drama through that philosophy, you'll just write bad drama, I promise you. But there's a fascination. Loud voices. Oh, we've listened to the loud voices. We must do so. We're all terrible people. No, we're actually living in a great place. We're having a rocky old time because of COVID. That means financially the backdrop isn't as tickety-boo as we'd like it to be. But broadly speaking, we're living in a pretty good place. And life ain't so bad these days. 0344 499 1000. Has protest lost its purpose? I want to speak with you if you've been If you've been in the past, back in the day, when protests were good and placards had words on them spelt correctly. The classic one, do you remember the anti-Brexit protest, was when they went up to the girl and they said to her, what is it about the EU that's great? And she went, the NHS. And then what's the next thing? I don't know. I just think the NHS is great. Yeah, great. There's no answer to that. She just wanted to protest.